I gotta make a little disclaimer. This is being recorded just for the benefit of Coldwell Banker George Realty agents. We don't offer no legal advice, no accounting advice, no CPA advice. This is just to learn to become a better real estate professional. So I am going to mute everybody. If you wanna unmute yourself because you cannot see something on the screen. If you have a question, I am encouraging anybody to say, hey, Cesar, stop, stop, stop. I want to ask a question about that. Or I will try to do it in about an hour, 45 minutes into the class. What we do is the following. Every agent, and I'd like to explain this, join the Association of Realtors, right? And then you get the rights to use the SIP forms. The forms now, CAR has sold the rights for the forms, even though they control the copyrights, they control the content of the form. They've sold the ZIP form to Lone Wolf, which is a third-party company. They're in the process of data management and all this other stuff that CAR may not be the best company to do so, right? They are not in the data mining, data doing. Now, because they sold it to a third party, all of a sudden there are other companies in the business of forms that got into the game. There is a company, as Ting was mentioned, Glide. Glide is another third-party company that buys the rights for the forms and want to connect the MLS with the forms to write up offers. Okay, so that is another one. Unfortunately, in my opinion, Glide sold to a competitor of ours, right? Compass, another real estate company, now would have access to all of the data that we input into the forms, right? They know when you're writing an offer on a house. So Compass agents, I don't know, they claim that they have, privacy and they have, but I do not know. So I like to continue using Lone Wolf. They're not in the real estate business. They're not in the form business. They're in the transaction business. They're in the marketing business, okay? So in the meantime, Coldwell Banker George Realty will stay with SIP form broker version. The benefit of the broker version is that the company, Coldwell Banker George Realty, create templates, and we put in every transaction category the majority of the forms that are being used in the transaction. So that will be the benefit. As a member of CAR, you have access to the forms through username and password. Through the Coldwell Banker broker version, we assign you a username, which is your first name, your last name, and then you will be getting a link. And on the link, you're gonna put your password, okay? So do not confuse both of them. It is the same product, but it is two different doors to get into the SIP form. The one I'm gonna get into it is SIP form broker version. And in order to go there, on the chat room, I already put www.zipformplus.com. Okay, and that's what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna go and share my screen. I'm gonna go to the internet. I am gonna create a new tab. I am going to go to www.zipformplus.com, right? When I go to zipform.com, I land in the transaction by Lone Wolf. My username is my first name, my last name. So your username is your first name dot your last name. The password was the one that I picked when I got my link. And if I remember correctly, I have 125 passwords that I use, and I sometimes I forget my name. When you land at the transaction page, you can see them this way, or you can choose to see them on a tile base like these boxes, right? If you roll your mouse everywhere, you can see the drop-down menu, and you can open the transaction. You can see the details. You can copy this transaction. I don't know how you copy it anyway. You can delete it. Do not save it as a template. You're gonna get all confused, okay? You can lock it and nobody can touch it. You lock it from yourself anyway. And then as I'm the manager, I can reassign a transaction. I don't do that. And one of the things that I wanted to show you here, but it will take me out of the program, is this tabs. The tabs are your dashboard, forms. If you click on forms, you're gonna see the complete list of all the real estate forms that CAR put together, right? They do addendums, they do, look at it, amendments, assignments of an agreement, backup offers, bed bugs, what do we care about bed bugs? Well, I guess by law now, if you're renting a property, you need to give this form to the tenant, even if the property is vacant, no beds, but you have to give this, okay? Business listing agreement, buyer's counter offer, there are several versions of it. So you have forms and forms and forms and forms, and which one would I use, right? So there's always that question, and am I missing one form? So what we created at Coldwell Banker George Realty was like a template. And the best way that I have to explain this is like when you go and you start deciding, should I go to a restaurant? And then you say, oh, what kind of restaurant, right? I'm gonna go to a French restaurant. I'm gonna go to a fast food restaurant. Am I gonna go to a French restaurant, a Mexican restaurant, a Chinese restaurant? I'm gonna, right? And then even when you go to a Chinese restaurant, you can say, do I go to Szechuan cuisine or do I go, Beijing noodle cuisine, whatever you wanna do. So always you are the one making the choices. So what we do is once you select what kind of property, whether it's a commercial transaction, that's like choosing what kind of restaurant to go to, what kind of transaction would it be? Would it be a residential? Would it be a residential lease? Would it be a probate? Would it be a short sale? All of that is kind of like my menu. When you walk into a restaurant, you don't eat everything. I mean, I want the soda, I want the alcohol, I want the soup, I want the salad, I want the shrimp, I want the chicken, I want the beef, I want everything, right? But I will not be able to fit it all in my stomach. So I said, maybe I just take a little soup, then maybe I take chicken, maybe I have a dessert, and maybe I have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee at the end. Or maybe I am a sweet tooth, so I like desserts, right? But I'm not gonna eat the ice cream and the cake and the chocolate fudge and the Italian, bread. No, I am gonna pick one. So this is what you do when you're picking forms. We created the form for you. Let me just go back. So back to my transactions. When I am clicking on a transaction, I'm gonna click on a new transaction, okay? So I'm walking you and it's gonna be a new listing. Today we're doing a listing. I'm gonna try to do a listing to the best of my ability, right? So it's a new listing. I am going to here, do not enter the name of the client because if you put Caesar, you might have another listing Caesar and then you wouldn't know what. But if you have an address, the addresses are unique, right? So I'm gonna have 4567 Main Street. And of course, this one is a make-believe address. There is no 45 in Alhambra. I am with Coldwell Banker George Realty. In Alhambra, you might have your name with your address on it, depending on which office you are. If the property is listed in the multiple listing service, you are welcome to click here, MLS Connect, but you do have to have the MLS number, right? And so you type it, then you go search it, and all of the information from the MLS is gonna auto-populate to your transaction. Who's the listing agent, who's the listing broker, how many bedrooms, how many baths, all that information can be inputted from the MLS into your zip form. This is a residential transaction, right? You can also import from zip form, record, I don't do that. You can practice yourselves. I always teaching basics and then you need to go higher. I'm only cooking basics. The spaghetti, I'm gonna just show you how to put it in the water. You put the spaghetti, 7 minutes, you take the spaghetti out. The sauces, you need to be the one putting what kind of sauces you wanna do. Meat sauce, tomato sauce, basil, whatever you're gonna do it. You're the cook. I'm just gonna do the basic. You need to get a pot, you need to get water, you need to put a little salt, you need to throw the noodles once the water is boiling. Do not throw the noodles before the water boils, okay? That's my advice. So this is gonna be an active transaction for me, okay? I am the agent, with my email. And here is the kicker. If you're not awake, wake up. This is where everybody makes a mistake, and this is what the program is all about. Selecting the template of your transaction, right? So when I click over here, it's a down menu. Let me let these people in. And you go to the template. On the template, we have the different menus, right? So this is an office company template that says commercial lease application. We're not representing a commercial tenant, so I don't touch it. Commercial lease listing. If I'm going to take a listing on a commercial property, I'm going to use this one. Commercial listing, right? This one is a commercial listing for sale. This one is a commercial listing for lease. I'm going to purchase a commercial property. I am going to residential income listing, residential income purchase. Remember, 2 or more, anywhere from 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 100. If they are apartment buildings, we use the residential income. If you're buying a shopping center, a freestanding building, if you're going for a industrial property, you need to use the commercial lease. But if it is income, if the people live there, if they're residential apartments, then we use the residential income, because a commercial property doesn't have to have a smoke detector, but the residential income, there's people living in there. We have to have the, carbon monoxide documentation. So you're gonna find it over here. Residential lease application, residential listing, bingo. This is the one I'm looking for. This is the one that I'm teaching today. So I'm gonna pick that one. So that is gonna be my template. When I click the template, the company, the managers and some of the transaction coordinators that help me, we have selected the majority of the forms that are gonna go into a regular single family condominium purchase, right? If you want to put comments in your transaction, you're welcome to type any comments that you want. If you wanted to put the name of the buyer, you can put the name of the buyer, the seller. So Sally seller, right? That's the lady that always likes to list properties with me. I am going to save the transaction. When I save the transaction, it's applying all of the forms. I mean, it's going out there and grabbing the menu of the restaurant that I want to do business with, right? And then it's very simple. There's always tabs: the summary of the transaction, parties of the transaction, so who's involved in the transaction, the documents that are going to be involved in the transactions were the documents that are already pre-selected there. And there is more. Like when you go to the menu, you can have red wine and white wine and tequila and whiskey. So you pick what are you gonna drink out of here. Then you can have chicken and you can have beef and you can have shrimps. So you're gonna pick only one. And then you're gonna have salad and soups, and then you're gonna pick only one. And then you're gonna have desserts, and you're gonna have cake and ice cream and a chocolate mousse, or you can only have one. So you click one, and the other ones, you can delete them. You're not gonna use them. Like for example, here, the property that we're doing is in Alhambra, but over here it says City of Los Angeles 9A report, right? So I'm gonna click on that one. Do I need this for a property in Alhambra? No way. So what I'm going to be doing this one, I don't need the City of Los Angeles, the People's Republics of Los Angeles. I am gonna go down to the drop-down menu, and I'm gonna say this form does not belong in my restaurant. I don't wanna eat that, right? So Department of Water and Power for Los Angeles, I don't need that either, okay? And pretty soon there's gonna be the Fire Department of Los Angeles form, and you need to take it off if you're not in Los Angeles. Open house sign-in sheets, right? If you wanted to print this ones, you're welcome. But right now, because of COVID and because of Governor Newsom, they don't let us do open houses. We don't need it. So I am going to delete that one. It says open house signing sheet. I'm going to delete it out of my transaction. I'm not eating open houses today, right? So sign order form, there it is. So you have a sign order form. You're going to send this to your listing coordinator and say, I would like to have a sign. This you do after you take the listing. So there is no need to prepare it right now. So I leave it in the file. I'm going to use it later, right? So right now, I am going to go back to the summary page. I am going to understand that the property is on Main Street. I am going to find out who are the people involved in this transaction. Number one is me, right? I am the agent. I'm the listing agent, and I am in the seller side. So I'm going to click seller side. I only want people in the seller side. I need to make sure that my information is good. And I do this every time I'm teaching the class, but technically you do it once and you save it and it should stay in your file. You don't have to be, opening up and viewing if the information is correct. So when you're here, you want to make sure that you are the full name of the agent, right? And this is my email. If you don't have nothing, then you type it. My business number is the same as my cell phone number. Agent ID, when they're looking at the agent ID, you can put your license. I think that's my license. I don't remember anyway, but 2, 7, 9, 10. So you complete all the information, the company license, right? You go 01121 Remember that you're going to be using the broker license. So get it on a location where you can copy it down or remember it, okay? The zip code, I am at 1611 Garfield. All my information is in here. I'll save it as a contact. I go save it. So now I am taking care of it. I am going to add a seller number one. And seller number one, the first name is Sally, right? And her last name is Seller. And then I put her information, wherever she lives at the house or she lives someplace else. I fill in all the information. The more information that you do into all these inputs, okay, the better you're going to be, because this information is going to auto-populate. Now imagine that Sally is not the seller. The property is in the seller's family trust. Okay, so here we go. And we are going to put seller, right? And then you can always put on the last name, you can put seller on the middle name, family, and then on the last name, trust, right? Or you can use any of these spaces to put the name of the company. This is when you're doing an entity, but an entity cannot sign. So you need a live person, bone and skin person. So right here, the representative of that entity, it's Sally, right? So I'm going to put Sally here, and then the last name, Seller, right? And this information is going to auto-populate. The signature line is going to have Sally to sign it. If you only put the company here and you don't put the person's name, then the company name is going to be on the signature and a company cannot sign, all right? So that's the way that it goes into the signing representative. When you use this, there is an additional form. But let me do it the right way. So I like to do that. Sally. And no middle name. And seller. Okay. I am going to save it. So now there's two people on the contract, me and the seller. Now, you find out how many people are the seller by ordering a property profile of the address from a title company. It doesn't cost you any money. You can say, hey, Angie, hey, Nancy, hey, Trio, any of the title people that come to our sales meetings are reputable title companies. I have preference for First American, the company, because it's one of the oldest and the more financially, they have the money, deep pocket in the event that there is issues with title. very professional. They've been in business since the 1800s. And so I like First American. And maybe because I have stocks in it. No, I'm just kidding. All righty. So now I have a broker that is going to be selling the property, the listing agent, and I have the client. Then I move along the way. I'm going to move to documents. And I go, whoa, my goodness, look at all the documents that I have to fill in. No, I don't have to fill them all. Only the ones that apply to my transaction, right? So if I am selling a house that was built after 1979, 78, 79, then the lead-based paint, I don't need it. I'm selling a new condo. I'm selling a new house that was built a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago. I will not use that form and I will delete it from my transaction, right? So we're gonna go along. I am going to go to the cover sheet. On the cover sheet, right, you're going to put the buyer's name. We don't know who our buyer's going to be, right? So we leave it blank. But we have already Sally Seller. Then we can put her address, wherever she lives, right? She lives on Main Street and she lives in the city of Alhambra, you know, so you can, you know, or maybe Montebello, whatever that city is, right? In California or Arizona, wherever you are, the zip code that it belongs to, right? These ones are just make-believe addresses. And one of the things that I'm going to tell you, we adults do not learn by Caesar talking to you, especially just by Caesar talking to you on a Zoom. You know, you're home, you can walk away and go to the refrigerator, you're hungry, your dog is barking, whatever, we lose track of what was being taught. The best way to do it is I'm going to challenge you. If you are going to learn, you better sign up to ZipForm and do what I'm doing today. Just create a transaction, a simple transaction. You can put your sister, your wife, your cousin, anybody could be the buyer, and write up an offer. You can be a seller and write up a listing and go all the way to the end. Because you want to save the money, don't print. Just keep it in the computer. Go create another one. The more transactions you create, and then you can always delete them. But you need to practice yourself. You need to be able to put the date and the price and what am I doing? And then you will have all the forms that you need when the real buyer, when the real seller step up in front of you, you are already an expert at writing offers. You are already an expert at taking listings. It is very nerve-wracking because you're trying to gain the business, and if you're fumbling and you do not know what forms they have to sign, they can see that you're no good. Why would they trust you on their biggest investment? The biggest investment that most people have is their real estate. So be very confident that you know how to do all the forms, right? So you put her phone number. All information that you type in here is going to move to the forms. We only have one seller, so we're going to take that X out of the other signature. So that will be on the signature line, an X for Sally to sign. You continue with the property address. If you wanted to put a taxpayer ID, whatever you put in here, right? A9-001-001. That's just the format. In Los Angeles County, they usually use 4 numbers, the page and the book of the taxpayer's ID number. The same thing. This is exactly the same in LA County, you know, as the assessor's parcel number, right? So you can do that the same thing. The tax ID or the assessor's parcel number is the same thing, right? The listing day, we're going to list it today, so it's going to be the day. So if I put it here, it's going to auto-populate to my forms. The listing price, okay, I'm going to put that I'm going to list this house for $750,000, right? So that is going to, the expiration date is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 months, okay? So I'm going to do it September the 15th, right? So the more information you put in this form, you know, complete your seller's broker information, your license, the company license, your phone numbers, your fax number. We don't need a lender. We don't have an appraisal. You can use this transaction form, transaction cover form, to save all the information. And the information here will be I believe it's 3 years after the deal closes, they'll have it. There is a transaction ID number. CAR will have your transactions saved somewhere in the cloud. That's up to you. Or you could always download it, save it, and keep it on your computer. That's up to you. So I'm going back. I already finished the cover line. Then I'm gonna go to the residential listing input form. Unfortunately, this form cannot be pre-filled in here. You would have to print it. You print the form and you answer every single question, okay? A lot of people say, well, I only need to fill in whatever is on the minimum, the asterisk. If it says here, required fields are marked by an asterisk, right? I know lazy real estate agents only fill in that. Top of the line real estate agents, they try to complete the form because the information that you input here is the information that is gonna go to the multiple listing service where all the eyes are gonna take a look at the property. And it is your duty to make sure that this property looks beautiful in the MLS. Beautiful professional photos and beautiful descriptions, okay? So the more information you put into these forms, the better. And if you have a question, don't be afraid to ask me. Don't be afraid to ask your managers. Don't be afraid to ask Google. You know, put anything like this, what it is, this information, put it on Google. What is a humidity control? I have no idea. Heat pump. If you don't know what a heat pump is, put heat pump in Google and then put images. And then that's what a heat pump is gonna look like. Double oven. I've never seen a double oven. Of course, you've seen it. The one with the top and the bottom, right? Electric oven. The one that has electricity inside, not a gas oven. So learn to differentiate those things, right? Take a look at them. I think that if you do not know property, you should learn property. Go to a house and differentiate between aluminum windows, double pane window, shake roof, stucco material, hardwood floors, engineered floor, carpet, linoleum, formica tops in the old houses that have old cabinets or, wood, oak, perfectly, hardwood oak cabinetry and expensive built-in bookcases. You need to know those things. Learn it. Go see houses. That is my advice to you. Complete this information to the best of your ability. The listing price. Are they selling additional parcels next door? Yes or no? Answer the no. Don't leave it blank, because this form is going to go to the listing a coordinator and they are going to be filling it in. And if you don't have an answer, some of them will not be able to put it into the MLS and it create a delay, okay? So this form keeps adding. So do not use the old one. Come over here. This form was updated, right? February of 2021. That was the last day this form was updated. And I think that there is an April one. So I need to make sure that it gets updated in it, Fill in all the 12 pages. And then once it's filled in, this form needs to be signed by you and it needs to be signed by the seller, because it is the seller's information, what we're putting out for sale. They are the owners of the house. They're the ones putting the house up for sale. The next form that we're going to be putting is called, and I know that Ting wanted to ask questions about this one, and it says seller instructions to exclude the listing from the multiple listing service and days on the market. A lot of controversy, a lot of political decisions. Some agents are selfish and they want to hide the listing from the rest of the agents. I am not that type of agent. I have never been, and I do not like to promote that. I think that if you are going to put a house up for sale, you are going to take advantage of the multiple listing service, which is exposure. The more people that see this house, the more money that the seller will get. That's my beliefs. If you think otherwise, that I'm going to hide this listing so I can double end it and I make $2,000, that's up to you and your own conscience. you could have sold the property for more money, and then you end up having half of the transaction and go worry about putting more halves. 20 halves is better than 3 double endings, okay? I guarantee you that. So if you, for any reason, the seller does not want the property into the MLS on a temporary basis, the house is dirty, needs to be painted. Of course, you want to take the listing, but then you have 3 choices. One of them is click here that says, hold the property from the MLS for a period of 10 calendar days, right? So after 10 calendar days, put it on the MLS. Or, right, you say until, and we are gonna be listing the property today, but next week on the 18th is my lucky day. All right, all the stars and the moon are lined to my feng shui. I wanna put the property out for sale on the 19th of May because that is the day, my lucky day. All righty, so you can say the property stars there. My feng shui master told me that on 5/19, if I put my house up for sale, I'll get the most money. Okay, good for you. My priest, my rabbi, they bless my house and they say, if I put it on that day, I'm gonna get more money so I can give more money to the church, whatever. Or you take it away from, do not put on the MLS for the entire listing period. Okay, so the house is up for sale, but only you know about it. Okay, so if only you know about it and you only have one buyer, what are the chances that you get the most money for the seller? Very slim. Okay, but those are the choices. Okay, now our MLS has adopted the National Association of Realtors. They call it clear cooperation policy, right? Brokers MLS rules govern the submission of the listing, and so you will have to put it in there, okay? Now, the other one is the seller instructs you not to put the property on the MLS, and you said, do not market the property immediately. Begin marketing to the public on, as we say, on May 19. This is what people consider coming soon. Watch out. Somebody is gonna get hurt. You put a property on a coming soon and you show the house to your sister, you show the house to your special buyer, you are breaking the rules. And somebody's gonna maybe call, pretend that they're your private buyers, you go ahead and show it, and that person is gonna go tell the MLS that you're showing a property and you're already marketing the property. And guess what? You are gonna get a fine. And the company, Coldwell Banker George Realty, will not pay the fine. It's on you. Some of the fines go from $250, $1,500, $2,500, $5,000, and I think the biggest fine is about $10,000. And the CRMLS controls it, and they have hired a lawyer to do that. And it's, that lawyer could care less because the more money he collects, the more salary that he gets. Okay, he's on a retainer and a percentage of the money. So if you do not know how to do the ruling of coming soon, you need to learn it yourself. And if you make a violation of the MLS rules, it's on you. Okay, not on the company, not on the listing coordinator. Okay. So they also explain you what are the impact of opting out of the MLS, right? They explain that, and the seller better know, right? So here is the seller's instructions to exclude the listing from the MLS. The seller should be the one telling you, hey, Caesar, I don't want the property on the MLS just yet. And you say, whoa, you should put it on the MLS the next day anyway, is your obligation. And the seller says, don't put it. Then you follow the rules, make them sign this agreement, and make sure that it is agreed upon. And then this one has to be signed by the broker or the office manager, right? So before you take one of these listings coming soon and exclude from the MLS, you need to come and talk to your manager, okay? Because you do not sign this, all right? You need to notify us So that way we know that you understand what excluding it from the MLS means. The next one is the residential listing agreement, and I'm going to speed it up a little bit. It's almost 10:45, and I'm only on form number 2. It's so many forms to put a property up for sale. That's the reason why we are a full service real estate company. When people say, well, how come IRN does it for less? How come ABC do it for less? You could always say, well, I don't know what their fee structure is, but we take care of a lot of business, a lot of forms, a lot of legalities, and we will protect your equity. We will protect your making sure that you get the most money for your property. There is so many forms that I need to know. There is a lot about the civil code that I need to know. And therefore, my company charges X amount of dollars, right? We like to charge 6. We would love to get 10%. Unfortunately, the real estate market in our area is around 5. In some cases, they want to grind you to less than 5. From 6 to 5, you guys have the right to do it. Anything less than 5, you need to be consult with your manager. Anything at below 4, it has to be something special, a $5 million house or something like that. Make sure that you discuss it with the company before you sign it. Anyway, if you sign a listing that the company does not agree upon, it is always the management has the discretion to turn it down and send it back to you. So the first form is disclosure regarding real estate agency relationship. It explains what we are. We are the seller's agent, right? And as the seller agent, we need to do diligent exercise, reasonable skills and care in performing our job. The next one is a duty to be honest and fair dealing and in good faith. Beyond saying it, you have to be honest every single day of your life, okay? But it has to be now, because of the civil code, they have to put it in writing. Now you have a duty to disclose any facts, any material facts that has an effect on the value of this property. If there is noise, you need to tell them. If the windows are broken, you need to tell. If the roof is leaking, you need to tell. Doesn't mean that you have to fix it. It just that you have to tell. So when the buyer buys, they already know that something is wrong with the property, okay? As the buyer's agent, you have similar duties with your client, right? And then if you happen to be selling or listing a property and it gets sold by an agent of Coldwell Banker George Realty, it doesn't matter which office. We are acting as both the seller's agent and the buyer's agent, right? And we owe duties to both of them, okay? Even if Peter is representing the buyer and Caesar is representing the seller, and I never meet the buyer's, Peter's buyer, I owe Peter's buyers my duty to protect them, okay? Even though the seller is paying the commission, has nothing to do with how I'm supposed to behave as an agent, okay? So as an agent, I have duties to represent people regardless of who's paying the commission, okay? And this is not a contract, this is just a disclosure. And Sally will be the one signing here, and then Coldwell Banker George Realty, I will be the one signing just as I sign a check over here, and I will put the dates. Make sure that you put dates. If you sign documents without dates, you are in trouble. The documentation can be voidable, not in effect if you do not have beginning dates, ending dates. If you don't have dates, it's like if you didn't sign it for the judges, okay? The next form, and I'm sorry, I should have stayed in listing agreement. It's attached to it. It comes in together. So after the disclosure, and is the entire civil code on page number 2, right? Then we have a fair housing and discrimination advisory. This is not a contract, it's just an advisory. And there are laws, there are federal laws, there are state laws, there are local laws, a whole bunch of laws that people follow or some people don't follow. I am asking you to please follow, because if you don't, you can go to jail, right? As a real estate licensee, if you violate one of this housing, the California Fair Employment and Housing Act, they throw the key and they put you in jail, okay? It's prohibited to discriminate in the sales, rental, financing, housing opportunity against any person in a protected classes. And today, Every class is protected, okay? So race, color, ancestry, national origin, religion, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression, marital status, familial status, citizenship, primary language, source of income, immigration status, disability, mental or physical, military, veteran, medical condition, age, criminal history, any arbitrary characteristic, okay? Do not discriminate. The California Department of Real Estate requires training and supervision. So I am supervising you. I'm making sure that you do not discriminate against anybody, against anything. If they have green dollars in their hand, they buy a house. It doesn't matter how they look, okay? Long hair, short hair, tattoo, no tattoo, white, blue, green, gay, lesbian, doesn't matter. Transsexual, bisexual, it doesn't matter. Poor, rich, doesn't matter. Come from China, doesn't matter. Come from Mexico, Argentina, Yugoslavia. There is no more Yugoslavia, by the way, right? The people's, any country that you come from, doesn't matter. You do not discriminate, please, on housing. And sometimes we make a mistake, and sometimes we make jokingly, we can say, oh, I'm going to East LA where there is all the taco people. That's should not be saying those words sometimes, and sometimes it comes out of our mouth. And we're not discriminating, we may be jokingly around us, okay? Please, in the office, when you're writing offers, please avoid all that type of language, okay? Because you're gonna get in trouble, and I will not be able to defend you, okay? So the next form, and I keep on going out of this, is after the disclosure, fair housing form. After the fair housing form is, and it has two pages, they have to sign it. The seller signs it, and we hold it. When we get a buyer, we give this form to the buyer's agent for the buyer to sign it, and then both signatures come back to our file, okay? Now, because of our big company, there's a possible representation of more than one buyer or one seller. This is a disclosure and a consent. So we let the buyers know and we let the sellers know that another person in our office could be working with the same type of buyer. Another person in our company could be talking about the same type of houses for sale, and that we may be dual agent. And since we let them know that we may be dual agents, once they sign it here, once Sally signs it, she's giving us permission to be dual agents, okay? If somebody says, oh, I want you exclusively represent me, we said, I'm sorry, I cannot do that because my company is big and a person in my company may bring the buyer. And isn't that what you want? You want me to get the buyer, you want my company to get the buyer and get your property sold for the most money, right? Oh yeah, okay, then sign here. Make sure that you sign your name and make sure that this form is given to the buyer's agent. Once you get a transaction, buyer to sign, agent to sign, form comes back with both signatures, goes into our file, okay? The next document is the wire fund and electronic transfer advisory. Okay, the way I call these advisories is like grandma telling you, put on your sweater, don't go out at night, make sure that you go with the right kind of friends. Don't go with the not so kind type of friends. That is an advisory from grandma. Don't touch a stove, you're gonna get burned. Well, this one is an advisory, right? Be careful when you're sending money via wire, because there is a whole bunch of people trying to steal your money. Make sure that you phone the escrow company, the title company, before you send money electronically. We are sending lots of money, so we don't want it to end up with your money somewhere out there in Kazakhstan or somewhere out in a third-party country. Okay, so make sure that in the event that something happened, you could always call the FBI, right? There is a phone number to call the FBI. There is also a National White Collar Crime Center. You can go there. You can go on Guard Online, right? And get some information about wire fraud. The next document on the listing is the listing agreement. Yeah, we got to the listing agreement in almost 1 hour, okay? And we are going to complete it. I am going to complete it in to the best of my ability. So the day that I'm preparing the contract, I'm preparing the contract today. I'm gonna go to see Sally tonight. Sally is giving Coldwell Banker George Realty the permission to sell the property beginning on May the 7th, ending at 11:59 p.m. on September the 15th. And then when I go to Sally's house and I'm presenting it, Sally says, no, 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 no. Caesar, I'm only giving you a 3 months listing. And I go, okay, Sally, let me do this. So it's gonna be from May 7 to June to July to August. So I'm gonna go to August the 7th, right? Or actually August the 6th at 11:59 p.m. So that is your 3 months. But we would love to sell it for more. Less than 3 months, you need manager's approval because we spend money marketing the property. We put a sign up for sale. We advertise in the Chinese paper. We advertise in the Los Angeles Times. So we spend money. And if we're going to spend money, we need to have a reasonable amount of time to sell the property for the most money. So I always like to do about 4 months. And I usually what I do, it doesn't matter when the listing starts. I always say, okay, I have till the end of the month, right? So I take the whole 4.5 months. The property is located at 4567 Main Street. It's in the city of Alhambra in the Los Angeles County. So I'm gonna put Los Angeles County, California, the zip code 900 whatever, the assessor's parcel number. Remember, this number was the one that we typed in the input sheet. So if you're doing the cover sheet, the majority of this information is gonna be auto-populated, okay? Is this a property, a mobile home? No, so we don't check the box. If I check the box, there's gonna be a new form, motorhome listing addendum, got it? So I don't check it, then there will be no form attached to it. Anytime we check a box, there will be a new form attached to the contract. So I tell you all the time, the listing contract is like the tree, and all of these forms, attachment, addendums are like branches. Sometimes we have more branches and we have to put them into the tree, and sometimes we have to cut those branches that don't apply to our tree, all right? So this property is being sold as a probate? No. As a conservatorship? No. Is it a guardianship? No. Is it a receivership? No, right? So in the event that it was, I click the box, oh God, CAR form has to be added to it, to the tree, right? So be careful checking boxes and be careful not checking them, because if this is a mobile home and you don't check it, then you are missing a form. Got it? So the listing price, we are going to be selling this property for $750,000. The moment I type it in numbers, the form will type it in English right here. Okay, so 775. I wanted 750. Sally wanted 775. No problem. I just cross it out and I put 775 and I put my initials over here. Any terms on this listing, right? So do not show it at 6 o'clock in the afternoon. You can put something like that. I have no idea what other listing will be there. The most important thing, in my opinion, how much money are we gonna get paid, right? Compensation to the broker. If I sell the house for 775, I get 6%. That is what I'm gonna be putting when I get to the listing. Okay, when I go to Sally, remember I had 750, she changed it to 775. I make a correction. And then Sally tells me, Caesar, you were gonna give me friends and family discount. Okay, well, friends and family discount today, just because of you, today, we are taking a 5% listing, no problem. All right. Then this is a protection clause, right? I get paid. Oh, by the way, I get paid if during the listing period, any extension, the property is sold by anybody, okay? If the property buyer complete a transaction, I get paid, okay? That's what it is, 5%. Now, if within 180 days after the end of the listing period, so 6 months after August the 31st, 2021. Anybody that I show the house, anybody that I register with the seller, anybody that made a transaction, purchase this house, I am entitled to commission. In the legal world, yes, it is black and white. In the real world, I have never seen this happen. So in 30 years of being in this business, I hardly ever seen it. If you feel that 180 is too much, or if the seller says, oh, I'm not gonna give you 6 months of protection, you can just double the number of protection of the listing. So if you take a 90-day listing, you could always go back here and say, okay, give me 90-day listing and then give me 90 days after the listing to be protected. In order to enforce it, you would have to provide the seller the names of the buyers anyway. So if you don't provide the names of the buyers in a mail or register letter, then this clause doesn't work, right? So read the contract. In addition to the commission that we're being charged, every seller pays Coldwell Banker George Realty a $295 transaction document compliance fee. Document compliance fee, it's like a management fee, administration fee. We use this money to help us with the expenses of SkySlope, the expenses of broker version. It doesn't cover the whole thing, but it does cover some of the hard expenses that we do by doing our business. Banks charge document preparation fee. Escrow companies charge document preparation fee. So real estate companies like us charge a $295, right? Other companies absorb it. Other companies, they pay it outside. Coldwell Banker George Realty would like to collect $295 on every single transaction, right? Then the seller has been advised by the broker policy regarding the cooperating broker. And so we are going to collect 5% when we sell the property, and we are going to share 2% to the selling office, for example, right? Or we are going to split 50-50, the 5% that we're charging over here, and we're gonna give that 2.5 to the buyer's agent, okay? That's page number 1 of 5. On page number 2, make sure that you have the date, make sure that you have the address of the property, and when you were taking your real estate exam, remember items that are excluded. Please, if you are not gonna sell the refrigerator, put it here. Refrigerator doesn't, you know, the refrigerator is not included, or you know, patio chairs are included. I'm throwing it away. They're concrete, big patio chairs outside. I don't want to haul them away when I leave. So if they have you know, swimming pool equipment, things of that nature that I want to give it to them, included. Pots. A lot of people have beautiful pots in their backyards, you know, or statues. You know, be careful, because sometimes when I walk into the house, it has a beautiful, you know, water feature on top of the swimming pool. But when I'm moving to my next house, I'm gonna take my, you know, my flipper, you know, I'm gonna take all the equipment that the swimming pool has, you know, extra chairs, patios, umbrellas, whatever. It's up to you. Another thing to be concerned: water softeners, propane tanks, alarm systems, right? Solar power system. Everybody think that just because this house has solar, it comes with a house. It may be lease. I'm renting it. I have not paid it all. I don't own those things, okay? Somebody else owns them. And so make sure that you ask the seller. I don't want you to get in trouble that when the buyer buys and there is a discrepancy, oh, the solar panels belong to Solar USA company. They just I was leasing them. Or are they loans? A lot of people get those hero loans or whatever, and they do the whole thing. They put solar power, they put windows, heating equipment, ventilation equipment, and he might have a loan, one of those hero loans. Okay, if you went to the Escrow 101 class, Marie did a nice explanation. She's having trouble with a lot of solar power companies transferring the ownership of the solar panels, and it takes and can delay the escrow company. So the escrow closing. Multiple listing service, we belong to the MLS, so we're going to put the property on the MLS. If the we participate on CRMLS, multiple listing service, we have to get permission from the seller to do so, so we put it in there. So imagine that you're listing a property in San Francisco, and maybe CRMLS is not the primary MLS in that location. So you need to tell the seller that your house is going to be in the MLS, but it may not be in the San Francisco MLS. It's going to be on CRMLS area. Maybe the seller don't want to give you the listing if you're not a local agent. When you take in a listing in, Big Bear or in Sacramento, or, you need to make sure that CRMLS is our primary MLS. CRMLS is one of the largest MLS. It goes all the way from Los Angeles all the way to, Temecula, San Diego. It covers a lot of Southern California. It explains this to the seller, the benefits of using MLS, okay? If the seller does not want MLS, remember there was a form that we did it, but we need the seller's initial, that they understand what the multiple listing service is, and the broker, the agent's initial. This one are your initials. I get a lot of listings where you don't get this sign, and it's a no-no. Please make sure that they initial and you initial as an agent, okay? The MLS rules require right there, that the residential real estate property with 1 to 4 units and vacant lots are submitted to the multiple listing service within 1 business day of any public marketing. 1 business day, meaning if you take a listing today is Friday, 1 business day is Monday. Now, when they're talking on an offer, calendar days, today is day number 0, tomorrow, day number 1, Sunday, day number 2. And by the way, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers in the class, okay? Sunday is Mother's Day here in America. All righty. So read the coming soon status. Coming soon. What happened with the coming soon? It says, seller is advised to discuss with the broker the meaning of coming soon, as that term applies to the multiple listing service in which the property will be listed, and how any coming soon status will impact when and how a listing will be viewable to the public via the MLS. Seller does authorize broker to use the coming soon status, if any, or broker does not authorize broker to use the coming soon status, if any, right? And these ones are the instructions to the broker. MLS may require an extra form, that one SELM, on a local equivalent. And then it says the seller instruct the broker to market the property to the public and to start marketing on the beginning date of this agreement. Or there is a date. Do not market the property until May 19, because that's my lucky day, okay? That is instructions from the seller. If you do that, make sure that you follow the law, and then on day 20th, that's when the property is gonna go on the market and the property can be shown. Or seller instruct the broker not to market the property to the public. Seller understand that no public marketing will occur, and the scope of marketing that will occur will consist only direct one-on-one promotion between the broker and licensees affiliated with a listing broker. Meaning the seller is going to lose because there's not going to be showings from the outside world. Okay, so make sure that there is a clear cooperation policy. It's a lot of pages. You need to read them. So if you come in here, it says, Cesar, I want to put it, I'm going to ask you to please read it, okay? So that way you know what you're doing. It says, broker shall disclose to the seller and obtain the seller's consent for any instructions to not market the property on the MLS. Now, we would like to encourage every single agent, market the property in the MLS. You take a listing today, goes into the MLS on Monday. That's the way to do it. That will be, that we would like it to be our business practice, okay? So MLS data on the internet, MLS will go and put it on the internet. In the event that the seller says, I don't want the MLS, I don't want the internet, then you need to be able to do that and check the boxes. Sellers elect to opt out of some of the, and then when you click the box, there's going to be another form. So you better know how to fill this form, okay? And then when you want to do those things, I'm going to ask you for you to explain to me the form. You be the one teaching me the form. Why would you like to go that route? Okay. The seller represent that unless otherwise specified in writing, the seller is unaware of any notices of default. That means that he's making his mortgage payment, that he's not delinquent with the bank, right? That there is no litigation, no lawsuits, right? Arbitrations, that there is no pending legal matters against the property, right? And then this is your job, brokers and sellers' duties. The broker agreed to exercise reasonable effort, whatever is reasonable. Put an ad in the paper, do an open house. It doesn't say here that you're going to do open houses every day. It doesn't say that you're going to walk with every buyer. That's different. That's part of the service that you will do to your clients. But it doesn't force you to do an open house. It doesn't tell you you better do an advertising. It doesn't force you to do that. It's reasonable. What we believe is reasonable to sell this property, okay? This broker agreed to present all offers. We need to present all offers, Mr. Seller. Even when the seller says, oh, don't bring me nothing below 700. You have to say, Mr. Seller, I know you told me you didn't want anything below 700, but there is an idiot from IRN submitting an offer for 600, okay? I have to give it to you. Here it is. What do you want to do? You want to reject? You want to counter offer, or you want to accept it? Oh, I want to reject it. Great. Put an X where it says rejected. I present the offer today, and then I get that rejected offer and I send it back to the IRN agent, okay? Don't just ignore it. Please take care of business. Answer, yes, no, maybe, right? Yes, I accept your offer. No, we reject your offer. Maybe, here's a counter offer, okay? The seller is gonna do pest control. In some parts of California, people do the termite inspection already. The sellers do it, and sometimes they fix it. Over here, they don't. General property inspection. Buyers don't trust when the sellers do that and say, I hired this company, and here's all the items that are wrong with the company, and I am gonna give you this as a disclosure. In my opinion, this is the way all sellers should do it, right? The seller should hire an inspector company and attach it to the TDS and say, hey, here is a professional. He checked the house. This works. This doesn't work. You want to buy it, you buy it. You don't want to buy it, don't buy it, right? Homeowners Association documentation. When the property goes up for sale, I believe that if you're selling a condominium, you should, as a listing agent, go to the management company, get all the paperwork ahead of time, and you have it ready. This is causing delays when you open escrow and the association doesn't send papers, okay? Yes, it costs money sometimes for the association to send copies of the CC&R, copies of that cost money. The seller should be the one paying for those paperwork and make sure that the seller already have a package. That means the seller is motivated to sell. If he doesn't want to do that, he doesn't want to pay the 200 bucks, maybe that seller is not motivated to sell. You can use that as a gauge to see if it's motivated or not. The deposit, broker is authorized to accept and hold on seller's behalf any deposit to be applied towards the purchase price. Even though we are authorized to do it, we don't like to take deposits on behalf of sellers. We would like the buyers, when they write up an offer, to send the money directly to escrow via wire or via cashier's check or personal check, okay? Now, the agency relationship, we already discussed it. There is an X there, right? Seller representation, brokers will represent seller in any resulting transaction, right? Possible dual agency, we let them know that there is a possible agency, right? Confirmation of the agency, we are going to confirm the agency on the purchase agreement. And for those of you writing offers, make sure that the name of the buyer's agent, the name of the listing agent, the name of the listing broker, the name of the buyer's broker, it's already on the top of the agreement and the proper X's are marked. That way your confirmation is done correctly. If you don't do it correctly, I am gonna ask you for another paper. I hate to ask for that other paper, so please do it right from the beginning, okay? Potential competing sellers and buyers. See, there was an X over here, and that is the form that we already potential, possible representation of more buyers and sellers. That form was already attached to this one. Security, insurance, showings, audio, video. You got to tell the seller. Somebody might be taking pictures of your house, or if you have one of those secret cameras there, make sure that you put a little sign that says, hey, you're in Candid Camera. The state of California very zealous about having cameras, right? So be careful. Photos, internet advertising. Let the seller know that all the photos that you're taking are going to go into the internet. Make sure that they know. Do not take pictures of people. Do not take pictures of photos of people. Do not take pictures of signs. There are rules in the MLS. The best thing to do is hire a photographer. A photographer can charge you anywhere from $200, $150 to $500. Somewhere along the line, some of them will have drone pictures. They look beautiful. It's up to you to do it. I am not forcing you. You could also take pictures with your cell phone and then submit them to the listing coordinator. Listing coordinator will upload them to the MLS. Make sure that there is no photo violation. You cannot use other people's photos to put on your listing. They have to be yours, your photographer, or the seller. And if the seller took the pictures, make sure that you get a little note that the seller gave you the pictures to use in advertising, okay? Lockbox, the seller gives permission to put a lockbox. If he says, I do not want a lockbox, then you check the box. Do not want a lockbox, okay? Other than that, you have it. Same thing, the seller gives permission to put a for sale sign. In my opinion, a for sale sign is the cheapest advertising. But if the seller does not want a sign, you click does not want a sign. I will question the motives of the seller that doesn't want a sign in front of their home because signs, it attracts 50% of the buyers to a property comes from the sign, okay? 50%. So because people like to drive around beautiful neighborhoods, and when they see a house for sale, they like to live there, they call on the sign, okay? That is one of the best advertising. Equal housing opportunity, they repeat it again, as we already have a form, but then they put it in the contract. Attorney's fees, all attorneys, they like to get paid, therefore, they want to make sure that this is always in all prepared contracts. The winning party will be entitled to reasonable attorney's fees, right? If this is an REO, you click over here and you have another form. If this is a short sale, then you click over here and you have the short sale form. If this is a trust, you click the trust. Let me explain to you, when you are selling a trust, like I am alive and my property is under my living trust, the sale is exactly the same. There is no need for the trust advisory form because the trust advisory form exempt the seller from disclosing. But since I'm alive and I live in the house and I created the trust, everything goes. If I die and my daughter or my son decide to sell the house by being the successor trustee, then they will have to have that form, right? The trust advisory, and then they are exempt from seller's questionnaire. They're exempt from the transfer disclosure. They're exempt from telling the buyer those material facts because it is assumed that they are not aware of it. They don't live in my house. So when they're selling the house, they don't know if the toilet is always running water from the tank to the bowl, right? They don't know. So they cannot tell that to the buyer. Now, in the event that the seller wants to make a purchase after selling this house, they click over here and there is another form that they need to use, okay? Make sure that if you are doing that over here, you repeat it when you're doing a purchase agreement. You can put it on the listing, but remember, the listing agreement is a contract between the seller and us. If you are going to be transferring that he intends to purchase another property, there will be an agreement between the seller and the buyer of his house. Make sure that you put it in there, okay? Page 5. Oh my God, almost the last one. This listing needs management approval. So the manager, the broker, will take a look at it, and if I don't like the price of the home and I don't like the commission of the listing, I have the right to say, Ting company will not take this listing. It is grossly overpriced and you're not getting paid enough commission. We are not going to market this property. Tell the seller, tell Sally that she is not going to be working with Coldwell Banker George Realty. I am sorry. So make sure that that is, the manager has permission to cancel this listing, right? In the event that the seller passes away, the successors, and if you assign it, will continue, okay? This agreement shall be binding upon the sellers and the seller's successors and assigns. So if the seller passes away, the kids will have to continue with this transaction. In the event that we have a dispute, we're fighting over this, Coldwell Banker and the seller will go to a mediation, right? That was the first step. In the event that there is no resolution with the mediation, we might go to arbitration if we sign an arbitration form. Other than that, we will go to a mediation and mediate. Most of the time, we will, the problem is that they don't think that we're doing the right job to sell the property. And maybe we say, okay, pay me back my marketing amount and we settle and you take your listing, go sell it to somebody else, okay? Entire agreement, whatever is in writing is what goes in real estate. In real estate, everything must be in writing. So any other promises, oh, I'm gonna do open houses every single day. There's nothing here that contracts you to do that, okay? Oh, it's not nice to promise something and not fulfill it, but there is nothing in this agreement that will force you to do open houses every single day, all right? Ownership, title, and authority. The seller wants to sell the property. They say, hi, my name is so-and-so. I own this house. I want to sell it. They hire me. We sign the contract. And it so happens that somebody else is on title. Well, we could always catch up with the signature unless that person don't want to do business with us and say, hey, I am the owner, not the person that signs it. We take the sellers as they're telling us, they're representing to us that they have the authority to sell the property. If something happened and somebody else has the authority to sell the property and they serve us a notice and say, hey, I am the legal true owner of this property, then of course we will give the listing back to that person, all right? In the event that is signed by a representative capacity, somebody that is the manager, the president of the corporation, they will sign over here a box and we will have that form. They sign, Sally will sign this, then I got a contract. I sign here and we have a contract between Sally and Coldwell Banker George Realty to sell this property for $775, beginning day today, ending day in August, at the end of August, and I am gonna go and put it on the MLS. I am not going to discriminate against anybody that wants to buy this house. I submit it to my company within a business day. I send photos to the listing administrator, coordinator. It goes up in the market. It goes to the coldwellbanker.com. I will do open houses. I will represent offers. I will put it on, I will tell the world, I will go to social media, do all the marketing for that listing. Hopefully I'll get a buyer. And after I get a buyer, I'll get paid. Simple as that. Listing is the name of the game. This one is, again, a seller's advisory that tells them, Mr. Seller, you need to make disclosures to the buyer. Mr. Seller, it's not because Caesar or Peter wants me to write a lot of disclosure. It's because of the law. It's because of the people that you guys elect to be in Sacramento. They want you to give them a statute by law. They need to give him a natural hazard disclosure. By law, they have to give him a lead disclosure. By law, they have to give him a property guide of earthquake safety. Protect your family from lead. A guide, all of this environmental hazard. The seller needs to tell the buyer if somebody die on the property, if the property is located within 1 mile of a military ordinance. A military ordinance is where they keep the guns, okay? All of that, it's by law. It's not because Caesar wants it, okay? If the property is located on a Mello-Roos community area, Section 5A98 of the Streets and Highway you need to do that special tax disclosure. So the special tax disclosure usually come from the Natural Hazard Company, NHD. Transfer disclosure statement, Mr. Seller, you have to complete a transfer disclosure statement. And I'm gonna give you I'm gonna do an AVID, and then you're gonna do a owner's questionnaire. All of the forms are because by law, California Civil Code, okay? Section 171002, you have no disclosure duty if the death more than 3 years, okay? But if the death happens less than 3 years, you're obligated by law to tell, okay? The only exemption is AIDS, okay? Condominium, if the property is located in a condominium, the seller have to tell the buyer. A lot of property, yesterday somebody was asking me, they're single family homes and they happen to be in a development. And guess what? They had association and they were a condominium. The streets, there was not gated, it was just single family homes in a development, and the streets and the little park belonged to the owners of all those houses. So they had a condominium ownership of that little park. So you own your house and you own a percentage of the common area. So that in California is called condominium. It has nothing to do with the way the building, you know, apartment buildings type or townhouse. In California, if you own your place and you own a common interest subdivision, you own a condominium. That's the word. I believe the condominium, it comes from the Latin, you know, dominium, that you guys dominate in co-ownership. I guess that's the, you know, you got to go take your Latin classes. Contract terms and legal requirements, right? All of these, the seller has legal requirements to do so. So this is an explanation of Mr. Seller. Mr. Seller, I'm going to market the property. Please put your cash, put your guns out of the sight of the buyers. So post-sale protections, all of this is going to happen. Safety precaution, just because I put a for sale sign and somebody knocks on the door, you just don't have to let them in. So these ones are instructions that you give to the seller. So that will be the seller's advisory documentation. And then there is a California Consumer Privacy Act. I am 100% sure that every one of you gets one of these letters almost once a year from your bank that tell you our private policy is this. Okay, so because of Facebook and Google's and all this other stuff, California came up with this California Consumer Privacy Act advisory, right? Again, it is civil code, it's legal people making the laws in the state of California, in Sacramento, the assembly people, the senator, I mean, the senators in California and the governor, they make laws. So make sure that you follow, right? California Consumer Protection. This document has to be signed and this document has to be in our file. Please, please, we would like to have all of the disclosures on the listings prepared by you and the seller at the time of taking the listing. Why? Because when a buyer comes along, we do not want to delay. We want to make sure that we have the documentation and we give them to the buyer signs it, returns it back to our file. We give a copy to that to the seller, right? I'm gonna stop a little bit right now for any questions so far. I saw a lot of people came in during before the introduction. Just to remind you that this is being recorded. We upload all of these trainings to YouTube, and you go to YouTube and then you look for Coldwell Banker George Realty training, and you can watch them as many times as you wish. There is a question here that says, the form which you show us, the screen letters are too small. Oh, is that the input form, Anna? Are you still in the class? Or did you go to sleep, Anna? Did I put you to sleep? I know, unfortunately, some of these forms are too small when I share my screen. My advice to you is for you guys to go to ZipForm Plus, go to your profile, open up a transaction, prepare one. You know, once you finish it all up, send it to your manager and say, hey, I was planning, I was practicing. Can you take a look at it? Am I doing it right? Am I missing something? I have no problem. You know, I wake up early every morning and I can read it and send it back to you and say, you goofed, you know, you messed it up. But when that's how you learn, you know? So doesn't matter whether you've been in the company for 20 years, 30 years, or you just joined the company one day ago or 2 days ago. We are here. The managers, the brokers are here. The staff is here to help you and assist you in making more money. And you have to be very proficient at running all this documentation. I mean, it's the truth. Yes, you go out there and you meet the buyers, you meet the sellers. But even with all my training, with all my experience, if I were to go to a listing appointment, my knees will be still shaking. They will be shaking in front of the seller because I'm fighting, number one, to get a good price. Number two, I want to fight and get my 6%. And they're going to be back and forth negotiating. And in the meantime, I have to pay attention to the whole house and see if there are cracks on the walls and the kids are talking about it, and the floor is this, and the backyard and the neighborhood, and I'm taking a look at the condition of the house. And I say it on a scale of, 1 to 10, this house is about a 7. And then I'm going to tell the seller, hey, Mr. Seller, make sure that you wash the windows, wash the carpet, clean up the kitchen. Your bathroom looks crappy. It's all black around the tub. Why don't you put some chlorine, Clorox, spray some of that stuff to clean up the bathroom? Oh, no, I want to sell my house as is. Then you need to be convincing them that if they clean up their house, it's going to sell quicker and for more money than if they leave their house dirty and brown grass. Make sure that if they have a backyard, get rid of all the trash, paint cans. You need to be that counselor. If they ask you, should I fix this? Your answer should be, yes, I think you should. Fixing is one of the best things. All the doors, you should get a can of WD-40, and all the doors that go silence, right? Make sure that the refrigerators, the stove, the sinks are washed and clean. And believe me, if the house is clean, even if it needs repairs, it sells better than a house that is all repaired and is dirty. I do not know why, but that is the truth. Okay. Any questions? I see some faces that I haven't met in the past. Cindy Chen, are you from Puente office? Welcome. I'd love to meet you personally one day. I'm so happy that, Sylvia Wu and Ali Young is here, new to the company. John Deep, I'm glad that you're back to business. So Nanette, welcome to the training. Nanette has been with the company a long time. She serves in the West San Gabriel Board of, did you get elected to the Board of Directors, or are you still running, Nanette? Hello. I hear some noise, but anybody has any questions? I like it when you guys participate. There's a baby that wants to participate.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Caesar, yes. Hi, this is Yan Yan. How are you?
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. I actually do have a question.
Yes.
So, if I have a seller that, is planning to sell in the next 3 months, and she said that their HOA is possibly going to create a special assessment. Special assessment for I think some sort of like driveway repair stuff, and then it may be a second special assessment for a roof replacement, maybe 3 to 6 months down the line. She's not sure of the exact amount. It can vary, but she says probably in the $2,000 to $5,000 range. And so she, should she disclose that to the buyer?
You have to disclose it, but instead of her disclosing it, what you do is you give the new buyer the letters or the meetings. The homeowners association usually have meetings. They do vote for these things. So they have something called minutes, right? They say, oh, on April the 15th, the board of directors of the association ABC, we have a meeting and we decided to hire XYZ company to do the repairs of the driveway, and it's gonna be $5,000, and we're gonna split $50 each member, you know? Usually what happens is that when condominiums, you know, it's funny. I don't live in a condominium. I have a property, a vacation home in a subdivision. And what happened is that when you pay very low association, you always have these problems because they did not collected enough money to have in the reserves, right? So if I am gonna be buying into this association, then I'm gonna say, oops, $5,000, right? Extra, they're gonna charge me either upfront or on a monthly basis. So this condominium can sell for less money, or in order for you to sell it, it's like, okay, I have a headache and I'm gonna sell it to you, but make sure that you bring your Tylenol with you. You follow me?
Yeah.
So now, is the reason for selling the fact that they're gonna be having additional fees, or what is the reason for selling?
One of the reasons, yes. They're moving out of the area.
Okay,
So rather than hanging on to it and then having to come out and manage it as a rental, they just wanted to kind of be done with it.
okay. So remember that if they're gonna be fixing the roof and they're gonna be fixing the driveway, I love it when I have a new roof, right? Because I am gonna love to buy that property. So maybe I don't mind because I am gonna be the one benefiting from having a new roof. So when you're selling something, can always go either way. Is similar to the house with a swimming pool and the house without a swimming pool, right? If you are in the summertime and your kids love to swim, you're gonna buy a swimming pool because it's hot and you can have a whole playground there.
But it costs more.
But it costs more to run it, right? But if you said, I don't want a swimming pool, no problem, right? So half of the world love a swimming pool, half the world doesn't like a swimming pool. So it's good to disclose, and that would have an effect on the price of the property.
So
now,
then, yeah,
you can market, let me finish. You can market the property as to seller will give $5,000 credit, for example, for the assessment, for, you know, that could even be a positive way.
Got it. Okay, so
but they have to discuss it, and they have to you have to disclose it. If you don't disclose it and I buy it and you tell me my association fees is only $100, and then once I buy, they hit me with a $5,000 or your association dues are going to $300 because we have to fix the driveway. I'm gonna say, oh, Yen Yen lied to me.
Got it. Okay. Understand. So yeah, so then so the seller, technically, if the assessment comes down after closing, technically the seller is not responsible for any of it, but as a nice gesture, the seller can offer a kind of like a pre-credit to the buyer to cover some of that down the road.
Yes, in the West Side is very common, because my daughter was looking for a property, and a lot of them will have a reassessment of $5,000 coming up, you know, and there was one where it says seller will credit half of it.
Got it. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Or you just lower the price so it will be very attractive, you know.
Okay.
Any other question? That was a wonderful question. It says, did I get elected to board of directors? I don't have audio right now. Congrats on winning the prize at Cinco de Mayo. I already put it on my Amazon account. Thank you for that. Anybody else? Oh, good, Nanette. No audio, but you're paying attention. Tien, I know that you had a question at the beginning. You're staying quiet. I guess Tien went to sleep. Any other question, guys? About the listing agreement. I'm gonna go back to the listing agreement where we were, share my screen and just show you other forms that you should prepare when you take in a listing, okay? So I'm just gonna mention them, I might not go over them. And then just a few minutes before, I would like to show you something on my CB desk, okay? So let me just go back to share my screen. This one is the, let me go back. So we talk about the cover sheet, we talk about the residential listing input form, we talk about the seller's instruction to exclude the listing from the MLS, and we went to the listing agreement, right? In the listing agreement, we found that there was an agency, there was a consumer protection, there was the non-discrimination, there was about 5 or 6 documents involved. Those are the main documents. But then over here, there is the Coldwell Banker Addendum. The Coldwell Banker Addendum is mainly for buyers, and I cannot increase the letters, but it talks about protecting in the event that the buyer goes out and goes around you, you're entitled to your commission. We tell the buyers, make sure that you do inspections. We tell the buyers and the sellers that we don't determine the value of property. They have to make an offer and the seller will set the price ultimately. We do not guarantee the services of escrow, title, whatever. There could be additional environmental hazards. Remember that the Proposition 65, the state of California, it is known to the state of California that gasoline and all that other stuff will cause cancer. If you're pregnant and you go to a bar, you know, there's a memo that says pregnant women shouldn't drink alcohol, all kinds of rules and laws that you have to put them up. 1031 exchange advisory. If you're selling a property that has an investment property, go see your accountant. Tax and legal consequences, go see your lawyer. Rent control, now the entire state of California is under rent control. There are different prices for rent control. If you are in a more restricted area, like the city of Los Angeles, city of Santa Monica, that applies. If you are in a nobody's land, then the state law applies. We talk about document compliance fee, and that's where the 295 explanation of that. Seller's financing, zoning. If I'm buying a vacant lot and it's zoned for a school, I cannot build an apartment building. Or if it is zone commercial, I cannot build a single family home. REO, short sales, probate sales, trust sales is not happening that much on the REO because, you know, there's a lot of people with equity. Aircraft noise, train noise, freeway, rural life. You know, the coyotes are out there in Pasadena, San Gabriel, whatever. Winds, gusty winds, you know, they can blow and blow your roof. All of this information needs to be signed by the seller, and then he will give it to the buyer, signed by the buyer, and go back to our files. That's a document that should be done at the time of taking the listing. The next documentation, we already discussed it. That's a representative capacity, right? So representative capacity, if this is an entity, if it's a trust, if it's an entity, a corporation, needs to be filled in the name of the corporation, the name of the trust, and then the name of the person that is going to be signing it, right? And that person signs it at the time of the listing, and then at the time of the sale, the seller and the buyer, the name of the buyer, will have to sign the documentation. We give it to them and we let them know that the person signing is an entity. Sorry, it should have been bigger. Okay. After that, and if you notice, there is a seller's affidavit of non-foreign status. This one is very complicated because it talks about taxes and it talks about foreign people, right? So if you, it's Internal Revenue Code 1445 requires that the seller provides to the buyer an affidavit that they're not going to run with the money, okay, and go to Bahamas. But the responsibility is on the buyer. If the seller sells the property, he is a foreign person, and I run away and I go to Brazil and you never find me in the jungle, and I owe taxes, The buyer is responsible to pay the taxes to the IRS. So make sure that whenever you're representing a buyer, make sure that this form is done. And if they don't do it and they don't give it to you, you could always request it from the escrow. But when it is done by the escrow, instead of being seller's affidavit, it is called a qualified substitute, right? The qualified substitute is the escrow company. The substitute is the escrow company. The escrow company tells the buyer, dear Mr. Buyer, don't worry. I already have the social security number of the seller. You don't have to worry, okay, that the IRS is gonna come back to you. So I sign it under penalty of perjury. So I will tell the truth. So I do have the transferor's affidavit of non-foreign status, okay? So don't worry. Most escrows are very good at doing this. So make sure that you're dealing with a reputable escrow company, okay? Either the seller tells you, I am not a foreign person, I am a legal taxpayer, or the escrow will give you the qualified substitute. Okay, now this one is also just an advisory. This one is like when the seller tells you, why do I have to tell the buyer? Well, it's not my fault. It's your fault for having, Gavin Newsom to be the governor. I'm just kidding. It's your fault for having all of those people in California. They make the laws and they make more laws and they keep on adding more stuff into the law. Mr. Seller, you are the seller and the buyer is the consumer. And the state of California is very protected of the consumer, meaning the person buying is the consumer. That's why when you go to a restaurant, the restaurant has to have ABC because the consumer needs to know if you have roaches in the kitchen, whatever, if you don't have roaches, they give you an A, right? So you have to give all the disclosures. You have to give a homeowners association disclosure. You have to tell me if the property has earthquake damages or anything of that nature, right? Tell me, Mr. Seller, by law, you have to complete all of this. There are civil laws that, that makes you responsible, right? So please complete the seller's property questionnaire. Please, it's not Caesar inventing all this form. It's a civil code. The law says that you have to give it to me, okay? If you are exempt, right, like a trust, if it was a probate, some of the people that have to sell these houses do not have to do a transfer disclosure statement, right? But it's because they do not know anything about the house, right? And then we give recommendation, right? You please, Mr. Seller, disclose any lawsuits. Please, Mr. Seller, disclose anything you know about the property, okay? That's what this paper is all about. It's an information advisory. Remember, we as real estate agent are advising. So we're grandma, we're advising the granddaughter. Be careful, don't go out at night by yourself. Be careful, put on your sweater, it's gonna be cold. Be careful, don't touch a stove, you're gonna get burned, okay? So these ones are advisories that we do to our client. The next document, right, it's the lead-based paint, right? And this one, the lead-based paint is a federal disclosure. By law, you need to tell it, the buyers, that the property was built before 1978 and they might have used paint that had lead-based paint, right? If you have lead-based paint and you eat it, there is a chance that it's gonna lodge in your brain and you're gonna have birth defects and all this other stuff. No wonder why I'm so dumb, because I used to have lead in my mouth. I used to have a BB gun, I put it on my mouth, I put it on my gun, I put the air on the gun and right? So some people are susceptible for lead, some other ones are not. That's up to you. If for any reason there is knowledge and reports, then you have to write them in here, right? Other than that, no problem. You can leave in blank. The seller signs, the listing agent signs, then the buyer signs, and the buyer's agent have to sign, and then we need to have this document in our file. If the house that I'm selling was built in 1980, 1990, 2000, right? This form is no need to. So I don't need the form on the transaction. So I can always go here and say, lead-based paint, I don't need it in my menu. I take it away. If it is older, then I leave it in there. The seller property questionnaire is what we were talking about as one of the, it is not a mandatory by law, but it is a requirement of Coldwell Banker George Realty. Why? Because the form exists. And we don't want when you go to court that says, hello, Anna, you are a member of CAR. Yes. Are you get the forms, zip form? Yes. Well, how come you did not protect it and fill in the form? Oh, so then they tell you, you were not careful. You did not exercise your duties. And so now they believe that since you didn't do this, then you fail at other duties and you're guilty. See, that's how the attorneys will frame you. So if the form exists, we are gonna be telling the seller, Mr. Seller, please answer the questions to the best of your knowledge, right? Within the last 3 days, anybody die on the property? Yes or no? And if you see the forms, they're in gray. I cannot answer them. This is for the seller to answer them. Of course, you can print them and then you'll be able to, with a pen, fill them in and help the seller. But my advice to you is don't do it. If you email this form, then the gray part will disappear and the seller will be able to fill it in. If you digitally signature, the same thing. They're going to be able to answer yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. If they answer yes to any of the questions, then they have to do an explanation, right? So there's 4 pages of questions about the house. They ask you, have you even painted the house, right? Has the house been painted in the past 12 months? You can say yes, it's freshly painted so I can prepare it for marketing. So you, Mr. Buyer, will have a beautiful, clean house. That's the answer, no problem. Now I can say, yes, I painted because there was a roof leak and the entire ceiling caved in. And so that's why we repair it. So these questions are, is the property built before 1978? No. So don't worry about the lead. You see, there is a lot of questions that the seller has to know. Any seller, any person that lived, they know about if you ask the question. If they do not know, you can leave it blank and you can say, question B, seller does not know. And then if the buyer has problem about wanting to know the real answer about this, then the buyer can pay somebody, an architect, an engineer, to find out, okay? So if the seller doesn't know, you can leave it blank, but then put, question this, seller does not know. And you will be in a better position. So this is for the seller to answer. If I were you, I will get a copy of all of these forms. I will create a transaction, a fake transaction this weekend. I will print everything. And instead of going to the beach, you can stay home and read it and understand what's going on. The more you understand, the better agent that you are going to be, and you'll be able to paraphrase similar to the way that I'm paraphrasing. As you probably know, I don't go line by line. Imagine if I go line by line, this class will be 6 hours, 10 hours, line by line. You need to read it, right? If you have a question, feel free to bring it in and we will read it together. Remember, I don't know everything about this. Some of the forms are revised different days. So I learn them as they come. Like, for example, this one. This one is a new form, right? Let me put it on full screen. This one is called square footage and the lot size disclosure and advisory, right? And it says different sources of square footage measurement. Sometimes the property profile says this house is 1,800 square feet. Sometimes the appraiser, when he goes out there, he measures the house and all of a sudden it's 1,817. So now we have 2 discrepancy. And then you send an engineer and the engineer says, oh, brother, the appraiser doesn't know how to measure. This is the official way of measuring. Well, the way they taught him at the University of Nicaragua when he went out there, right? What about if he went to the University of Shanghai? What about if they taught him different ways to measure? You measure the outside walls and do not measure the garage. All kinds of crazy things happening. So they may be discrepancies. So the public records show one, the appraisal shows another one, then you would have to do that, right? If you want to give the form, you use the form. A lot of people are using the form because it protects us real estate agents from doing it. It is not a mandatory form unless there is discrepancy on the measurements. If you use the assessor's, the public record, no need to have it, but advise to have it. The other form that I wanted to bring to your attention, right, is the real estate transfer disclosure statement. This one has to be filled in by the seller, right? The seller is the one that says, yes, the property has a range, an oven, microwave. Then they ask him, are there, to the best of your knowledge, anything that is not in operating condition? Yes or no? The walls, the ceiling, the electrical system is sparking. Every time I turn the light on, the light bulb burn. Let them know, that way you're not in any problem. And they ask you the same questions again, right? Are you aware of any substances? Are you aware of any zoning violations? Are you aware of this? Yes, no, because the buyer needs to know. The buyer needs to be told what they're buying, right? There are two questions in the old days that don't have any answers over here, right? They want to know if there is, for those people selling condominiums, Section 910 and 914 of the Civil Code, it talks about construction defects in common areas. So this is answered in another, over here, yes or no, just came into effect. So if you're selling a condominium that is suing the common area, either yes or no, okay? And then the agents at Coldwell Banker George Realty, do not write anything here. All you need to do, all Caesar needs to do is check the box. And it says, see the attached agent visual inspection disclosure, AVID form. Nothing here. I sign it. When you are the buyer's agent, I want you to check the same thing. Nothing here, and you sign it as the buyer's agent, okay? And then make sure that you complete your AVID form, okay? Which is the one coming after. AVID form looks like this. Where's my agent? Okay. On this one, you are not an inspector, but you are to do a walkthrough inspection of the property. You are not responsible for the roof. You don't go underneath the house to check the attic. You just walk to the property, and if you notice something, right? If you are in the kitchen and they remodel, you can say remodel kitchen, or you can say newer cabinets, right? A lot of houses, maybe 80% of all the houses that we sell in the San Gabriel Valley, they were built in the 1940s and 50s, and they had ugly yellow tile or green tile, and now the people already put a new stone countertop. So then you can put, a stone counter, right? So that way it looks like you already took a look at something like that. Or if something is broken in the kitchen, the floor is broken, when they push the refrigerator, they scratch the whole floor, so you put it in there. Feeling about bathroom number 1, bathroom number 2, number 4. If it has more other rooms, the office, the study, you fill in this to the best of your ability. You did the inspection, you sign it. If it is one single house, one of these by the listing agent, one of these by the selling agent. If it is 2 units, a duplex, you're going to have 2. If it is 3, look at it. This property is a duplex, and this AVID is for unit number 3. So you're going to have one for unit number 1, one for 2, 3, and 4. You have to have 4. If you're selling 5 units, this form doesn't apply. Good. I'm glad. If you're selling a duplex, you need to have 2 transfer disclosure statements, okay? There is another one here. This one is also confusing, right? Fire hardening. This one only applies if the property is in a fire or high fire area. How do you find out? You talk to the natural hazard disclosure people. You talk to, Brandon from First American Natural Hazard. You talk to, what's the name of that girl from My NHD? I forgot her name. Okay, so you talk to NHD people and they will tell you if the property is, then you do the form. If the property isn't, then you don't do it, okay? And it's called Home Fire Hardening Disclosure and Advisory. And if it is, and the seller has fixed the eaves and the roofs, and they cut the trees, and they make sure that everything is rain gutters or metal, you can let the buyer know that they already have taken some of the steps to make sure that the house, it will last longer to burn, okay? That's technically what it is. Instead of the house burning in 1 hour, it takes 2 hours, so the fire department can put the fire out. The next document, and it's almost getting to the last minute, is called the Statewide Buyers and Sellers Advisory. This one, I would like to spend more time. Maybe next week, I'm going to be talking about disclosures, and I'm going to go over the entire form. And if you learn this form, you are going to know more real estate than 50% of all the real estate agents that are walking out there, because this form talks about everything. It is 14 pages, I believe. How many? Yeah, 14 pages. And it talks about the property physical condition. It talks about the use of the property. It talks about neighborhood condition, legality. So I am going to spend a great deal of time explaining some of these forms that goes into the listing. So even though we talk about it today, we will be talking next week. And if you have a question, bring it in. I'm going to stop the share because as a respect for your time, it is 11:57. But I wanted, Sage Gomez, thank you for reminding me. Sage, she's a wonderful girl. Nanette just put it on the chat box. I have a question. It's Caesar. If it is a trust and a trustee lives in the house, does she have to do a TDS and the questionnaire? Now, let me ask you a question. If it is the actual trustee that created the trust, like me, I created my family trust, I am selling the house, I lived in my house, I have to do a property questionnaire, and I have to do a TDS, and everything is normal. Now, if, let's say my son or my daughter, adult, they live in my house, I die, and they become the successor trustee, they are exempt. But I wouldn't be too much exempt because they're going to probably come back to them and say, well, you lived in the house. Yeah, but they can say, I don't care. I only lived in my room. I never had dinner with my father. I never talked to my dad. I was just a millennial that never pay attention to anything. I was just living for free in my dad's house. I don't care about the plumbing. I don't care about the electricity. So therefore, I am exempt. And the answer is true. They are exempt. How to register for a username and a password for the zip form. Okay, I am going to go that if Julia, you send talk to the manager, and we will put you there. Okay, what we can do is next Tuesday when I'm in Arcadia, if you want to over the phone, just send me in and I'll make sure that I set you in. Send me an email, okay? As a matter of fact, this is how you're gonna do it, Julia. If you stay in there, I am gonna go and go to the zip form, my administration page. So let's do it right now, Julia. Are you a member of the Association of Realtors? Because you have to be. So I am gonna go to my admin page. I'm gonna go to user. I am going to go to adding a new one, right? I am going to add you. And Julia, I need to go to I need to have your, if you unmute yourself and give me your full last name, can you unmute yourself? Do you have audio?
She said she's not member. I see that message.
Okay, so then that's what we need to do. Once you go.
She said she applied.
Okay, All righty, so let me do it once you become a member, because otherwise you will not be able to use it. You do have to be a member of the Association of Realtors, and they have to verify your membership, because these forms are provided by the California Association of Realtors. Okay, thank you. I couldn't read it. We'll do it next Tuesday. Okay. Sorry for not remembering your last name, Julia Chi. Anything else? Any other question? All righty, it's 12 noon. You're free to email me. My phone number is there. You can always call me. I will respond to the best of my ability. It is my pleasure. I love to help you make money. I love to help you writing an offer, taking a listing. Doug also do a one-on-one with anybody from Arcadia, and Lori will do a one-on-one with you if you are in Puente. So have a wonderful weekend. Have a beautiful Mother's Day. If you have a mom, hug her, kiss her. I don't have one. I have a wife and I have a mother-in-law, so I will spend the weekend with them and enjoy their time. So see you next week. Monday is a meeting for Arcadia. Tuesday, the meeting in Puente. Thursday, the meeting in our. Oh, don't forget about going to the lunch and learn on Monday. Is going to be a disclosure person. They're going to teach you how to do the transfer disclosure statement and the AVID. A very knowledgeable person to do that. Okay. So have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.